like most of the commissioners that I've worked with in the districts. But welcome and happy birthday, PC. Honorable members and my colleagues in the legislature, the supporting staff, our guests and invited guests from the metros. I see you have been very diligent in attending our engagements, and I think that's important, and we are hoping that translates also in operations, where you cooperate with all the other law enforcement agencies. And we also want to welcome our guests from SIRA who are here. I've not seen anyone from IPID. And got an indication that they are here, but we also expect them here. We also welcome the chairs of chairs who has been joining us in some of our engagements with the South African Police Service. Good morning again. I welcome you all to this critical sitting of the Portfolio Committee on Community Safety, where we are going to receive statistics for Q4 for the financial year 23-24. We begin today's session with a dual sense of responsibility. On one hand, to acknowledge the progress that we have made in reducing the certain categories of crime across the province, and on the other hand, to confront the painful realities that continue to haunt our communities. We note with caution the decline in property-related crimes and some contact crimes. These are the gains that are a result of a tireless efforts by law enforcement agencies, community policing forums, and active citizens. We commend this progress and encourage a continuous vigilance and collaboration. However, we cannot ignore the harrowing incidents that continue to shake the very core of our society. The brutal murder of Olerato Mongalo, a young woman full of promise, has ignited a national outrage and sorrow. What meant to be a simple date turned into a nightmare that ended with her body being dumped in the streets of Lombardy. This tragedy has once again highlighted the dangers that lurk on the social media platforms, where predators exploit trust and technology to commit heinous crimes. We must urgently strengthen our cybercrime capabilities and digital safety education, especially for the young people. Equally disturbing is the recent case of a mutilated child's body that was found in Roodepoort. A chilling reminder of vulnerability of our children and the depravity that still exists in our community. These are not isolated incidents. They are part of a disturbing trend that demands a coordinated and multi-sectoral response. Yet we must also confront the failures of our justice system that continue to be observed across the country. The dropping of the cases against Pastor Omotoso, and also some of the recent cases where the NPA was found not to have followed protocol or their regulations to extradite or to even arrest the culprits. This is a big problem because it also defeats the work that the police are putting in place and the effort that has been put in place to fight crime. Because if we can't convict and increase our conviction rate, it makes the whole fight on crime fruitless. We also want to take the opportunity to, where credit is due, we need to give it. You know, the progress that was made in the Jocelyn Smith case, and it's something that we need to commend. But I think one of our future engagements that we need to have is to have engagement with the justice system, because we need them to play their role in making sure that the work that is put in place in the streets is also bears fruit in the courts of law. We must also continue our efforts to improve our collaborations and integration, particularly as it relates to our work as a province with the metros. As I said in the off-the-record remarks, I really appreciate the cooperation that I see. I'm hoping that that will translate again in real sense in our operations. And this is also an important aspect of the strategy that has been adopted of the Integrated Crime and Violence Prevention Strategy, which remains a cornerstone of the approach of the police in dealing with crime and preventing crime. It's important that, you know, one of the things that I had indicated before and appreciated when we discussed statistics, there's a discussion about the cyber crimes. And I think we have not really taken up and said that we need to improve our capacity in dealing with cyber crimes. In many of our discussions on cyber crimes, it has always been about, you know, the adverts, people go and buy and then they get robbed. But I think one of the important ones now is the one that involves these hookups and date apps that we have seen. In our recent visit to GP Police Station, we did get an indication that Maboneng precinct has become one of the centers of where these crimes do happen, and with a particular target of the community from the LGBTQI+ community. So it's important that the police must improve their capability and their capacity to be able to deal with cyber crimes. But of importance, as the committee, we need to look at the issues relating to regulations. Regulations as how people who use social media platforms can be verified and they can also be identifiable. And also we need to improve and increase the level of awareness, including even the issue of including it in the curriculum on how the learners themselves can be able to protect themselves, not only from bullying, but also to fall to these scams of being robbed during like hookups. Before I finish with my opening address, it's important that we also note what we saw in Westbury and condemn it as a committee. Because one of the important things that we have been saying is that the community must work with the police, must collaborate with the police, because there's no amount of police work that will be successful without the involvement of the community. But the scenes that we saw on that video that went viral were quite disturbing. Is the issue of undermining the capacity of the state. But of course, it means that we must also talk to our communities. That outside everything else, you can't, on the one side, raise a grievance about drugs and gangsters. On the other hand, you act to protect them. And I think we need to condemn it as a committee, and everyone in the society must do that. General, this is going to be an opportunity. Unfortunately, it's not a birthday present wrapped with a ribbon. we are at work, and also truly appreciate the cooperation that you have given us and the working together as a committee and holding you accountable and even following up on all the matters that we raise with you. And we truly appreciate it as the committee, and you are given the opportunity to come through to address the crime stats. Thank you. Before you continue to do this small procedural aspects that deals with the preparation of the precinct of the legislature, that I, Honorable Bandile Masuku, Chairperson of the Community Safety Committee, hereby declare that Tabo Eco Hotel as a precinct of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature in terms of Rule 56 of the Standing Rules of Gauteng Legislature, read together with Section 1 and Section 2 and Section 28 of the Powers, Privileges Number 4 of 2004. The precinct of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, there is the Standing Rules of the legislature will apply and govern all the engagements of the legislature. And then I can hand over to you, and then we confirm the agenda after you have spoken. Thank you.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson. Before I can do the formal greetings, thank you very much. I think it's befitting that the arrangement is superb on my birthday. I had at least breakfast before I could appear before the Portfolio Committee. Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Community Safety, Dr. Bandile Masuku, the Honorable Chair of Chairs, Honorable Members, the management of the law enforcement agency, stakeholders present here, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and members of the Portfolio Committee on Community Safety, for inviting the South African Police Service to present the fourth quarter crime statistics, mainly for January to March 2025. As we are presenting the crime statistics, I want to emphasize that as law enforcement, we are mindful that behind every number, there is a human being, a family, and communities are affected. Crime reported as reflected on the crime statistics is mainly focused on 21 priority crimes grouped into two main types, namely the 17 community reported serious crimes and 4 crimes that are detected as a result of police action. Honorable members, crime statistics in Gauteng has moved towards downward trend as we made progress in a fight against crime by recording a 7.9% decrease, which translates to 8,393 counts on 17 community reported serious crimes for the 3 months under review. The decrease is a positive trajectory as we take into account the provincial high population and the other various factors. Honorable Chairperson and members, we are also mindful that the province still accounts 26.2% to the national overall crime picture. In other words, out of 100, the other provinces, they are sharing the remaining percentages. Honorable Chairperson, members, the breakdown of the crime subcategories goes as follows. Firstly, is contact crimes. Contact crimes are crimes committed against persons, and the province in this broad category has decreased by 8.5%, which translates to 3,864 counts. Within this category, murder was reduced by 10.8%, Honorable Chairperson and members. We just want to reflect as well the causative factors for murders. What came out clearly, it is argument, misunderstanding, road rage, provocation, closely followed by robbery. Most of the murders within our province are mainly committed at a public place and then at the residence of the victims or perpetrators. Honorable Chairperson and members, the province had a challenge of multiple murders. The multiple murders have contributed to 75 dockets with 191 victims to the province's murder rate. For the highest number of people killed, just to reflect, we had 2 incidents where 7 victims were murdered on the same crime scene. These incidents happened in Soshanguve and Kagiso. In Soshanguve, we know the well-known informal settlement which came forth because of this incident called Marry Me. Preliminary investigation suggests that the community patrollers had some sort of a quarrel with the certain grouping which was suggested to be a security company. This resulted in patrollers being stoned, shot at, partially burned. The police and the Hawks moved swiftly and arrested the perpetrators of this horrific crime. We are, of course, grateful to the community for coming forward, as you have indicated, Honorable Chairperson, that we need to work closely with the community. The cooperation of the community assisted us greatly in cracking the case. 3 accused are now facing the full mighty of the law. In Kagiso, a group of suspects torched 4 vehicles, a shack, and a spaza shop, and randomly shooting at people. 7 lifeless bodies were found on the street with gun wounds, of which there were 6 men and 1 woman. 3 people were injured. We ultimately had 2 arrests. Following this incident and the concern of the community, we have followed up with the maximum deployment in terms of targeted areas for cordon and search. The maximum resources were deployed. As I've indicated, cordon and search operation was conducted. During the operation, we arrested 19 suspects, of which 5 were illegal immigrants, and the other 14 were charged with different crimes such as dealing in drugs. We were, of course, be in a position to confine possession of unlicensed firearms and possessions of explosives. Reflecting on the attack on rural communities, Honorable Chairperson and members, the province had 1 incident reported for the 3-month under review at West Honoria, West Rand District. This happened on the 1st of February 2025, with the exact time 7:30 as reported. An African man was killed during a robbery at a farm where 3 cows, 2 goats, 2 sheep were stolen. The reflection of the police killings, Honorable Chairperson, members, murder of our police officers for the period under review is 11 police officials, of which 1 member was killed while on duty and 10 while off duty. The Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation, known as the Hawks, deal with the police killing cases. For the period under review, 5 suspects were arrested, and the investigators are hard at work following the leads to trace more suspects. Honorable Chairperson, members, we will not be deterred. We are strengthening our effort and ensure that we put our operational plan in ensuring that we move with the threat. We also move to the community in ensuring that as and when we engage the community through those Imbizos awareness campaign and the community outreach program, we will, of course, resolve most of the crimes. We must indicate that within the period under review, we managed to have 3,135 community engagement within the province. This includes the engagement through the local police stations, as we know for the fact that we have directed that Wednesdays be the dates of the week where we have to keep in touch with our community. We will, of course, continue to work with the communities in ensuring that the criminals do not have a place to hide. Moving to the other subcategory, which is sexual offenses. The sexual offenses is reduced by 2.1%. One must indicate, Honorable Chairperson, members, that the Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offenses maintains a comprehensive approach to address sexual offenses, from enforcement to education, community engagement. For the period under review, they have arrested 1,112 sexual offenders, presented 1,356 cases in court, and secured convictions for 102 offenders, resulting in 28 life sentences and an additional of 900 years imprisonment. The efforts undertaken extend beyond the law enforcement, with 127 awareness campaigns reaching 12,300 individuals, including 4,250 adults and 8,050 children. The campaigns focus on strengthening partnership with the stakeholders and promoting the importance of reporting sexual offenses and gender-based violence and femicide. The third crime subcategory is a robbery with aggravating circumstances. As we move forward, we have reduced violent crime. For the period under review, reduced this subcategory of crime by 8.9%. Car hijacking under the above subcategory was reduced by 2.7%. Robbery at residential premises by 6.2%. Robbery at non-residential premises reduced by 25%. However, the cash in transit robberies, truck hijackings have increased by one count, of which is translated to 0.4%. Honorable Chairperson, members, there are notable arrests which we recorded during the period under review. The reflection is on hijacking cars and trucks. We arrested 292 suspects and recovered 837 hijacked stolen vehicles. Robbery at residential and non-residential premises, we arrested 473 suspects. Kidnapping, which it is a concern, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members in our province. For the 3 months under review, we recorded an increase of kidnapping by 15.8%. A sample was taken of a size of 2,341 cases, which were analyzed by the province to determine the circumstances and causative factors for kidnappings within the province. Amongst others, we had hijacking and attempts. We have 1,338 cases, which is carrying a high percentages. Robbery related 356. Ransom demand or demanded 144. Extortion 20. Human trafficking 3. Honorable Chairperson and members, through our collaboration and through the link of the National Anti-Kidnapping Team Counterintelligence, the province has arrested 88 suspects linked to 62 cases of kidnapping and rescued 77 victims of kidnapping during the period under review. We are, of course, working closely together with our stakeholders to combat the kidnapping syndicate operating within the province. We are, of course, thankful to the Business Against Crime South Africa for partnership through the Eyes and Ears initiatives, of which we do have memorandum of understanding signed by the National Commissioner and our partners. We are able to deploy the technology resources from Business Against Crime South Africa links to the security industry as we utilize the security officers as a force multiplier when conducting the takedowns for the majority of the operations for these kidnappings. We are also thankful for cooperation agreements, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, which is now have been extended to the local municipalities by the Premier of Gauteng, Panyaza Lesufi. As of yesterday, we were in Tembisa with the Premier. This cooperation agreement ensures that the sharing of available resources amongst law enforcement agencies. We are in a position to conduct high visibility operation within the province with Metro Police, Gauteng Traffic Wardens, local traffic, community policing forum, community in blue patrollers, and all other social partners for fight against crime, side by side. The subcategory for crime detected as a result of police action, Honorable Chairperson, members, as we move the length and breadth of our province, where our presence is seen and felt on the ground, we were in a position to apprehend suspects for different crimes. For the 3 months under review, suspects arrested for this subcategory were as follows. Illegal possession of firearms and ammunition. We have recorded 1,035 cases. When we compare with the other provinces, Gauteng recorded the highest number of firearms and ammunition recovered. Drug-related offenses, we recorded 11,365 arrests. Driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs, we have recorded 6,689 cases. Sexual offenses detected as a result of a police action, we recorded 443. As I draw to the conclusion, let me mention the success we have achieved through Operation Shanyela. Week in, week out, we are on the ground, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, and I am leading from the front. The total suspect arrested for various crimes for the period under review for Operation Shanyela is 28,851, including 8,110 illegal immigrants. 3,682 suspects were arrested for contact crimes, including 116 arrests for murder and 108 for attempted murder. Detectives secured conviction where 25 murder accused were sentenced to a combined 6 life imprisonment terms and 256 years in prison. 1,527 arrests for assault GBH, 1,306 for assault common. 3,105 suspects arrested for liquor-related offenses, where we closed 1,047 liquor outlets and seized over 90 million milliliters of liquor. 6,000 750 illegal firearms seized, including amnesty and volunteered handed over firearms, and 6,189 rounds ammunition. In conclusion, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, we acknowledge that there's still much work to be done. And as we move forward, we will continue to foster collaboration with our stakeholders in ensuring that we improve the safety and security of our communities. As together, we can do more. This will ensure that we are building stronger and safer communities. Honorable Chairperson and members, allow me to hand over to the Provincial Crime Register Brigadier Mpho Chakalani to present to you the comprehensive crime statistics for the fourth quarter of 2024-2025 financial year. I thank you.
Thank you, PC. As we prepare to go through the stats, let me further welcome the Deputy Speaker, Ms. Manamela, and also welcome the Chairperson of the Board of the Provincial Police Forum. I saw a cap that looks like this. I've not really confirmed it here, but it's the cap that I can only say that I can welcome him, Thomas Mthombeni, and also welcome the HOD, Ms. Sulu, and the team that is here. Welcome, Honorable Boss. And further note the apologies from Member Mulder and Member Gumene. I'm certain that we have been doing these statistics for long, so we know which are important aspects that we need to emphasize and elaborate on. The platform is yours, and as the protection is getting there. So we are going to receive the stats now and also get after the stats we'll get the reports from brief reports from the networks and any report from SERA on the work that they've been doing and maybe on the new regulations that are under discussion. And then we then have the deliberations and then we close the meeting. So we are not going to be here for long. And I think the agenda has been circulated, and maybe just to get the members to confirm the agenda is this. Thank you, Member Moody. Can I get?
From the boss of second.
Thank you, Member Boyce. So there will also be an addendum to the report of the crime stats on progress that we have made on certain categories of crimes that we have been concerned on. And I'm certain that we are going to include at some point the one that relates to schools and health facilities, because we also have seen that there's a trend at the level of health facilities where health workers are actually attacked and also hurt. Maybe not only here in Gauteng, but also in other provinces. So we will at some point add on in terms of the progress or the priority crimes that as a province we are following up. And maybe lastly, before I give it to you, that we maybe have to start to have a tally PC of all the cards that we are collecting
be a live tally that we do, because we note that the guns are a big instrument in all the crimes that we are dealing with. So over to you.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, members of the Portfolio Committee, HOD, Mrs. Sulu, Chairperson of the Provincial CPF, management of the SAPS, media, all protocol observed. Honorable Chair, this morning I'm going to give an overview of Gauteng crime statistics. As we're all aware, the crime statistics nationally was released by the Minister as well as the National Commissioner 2 weeks back. However, I will be highlighting as well as unpacking some of the offenses, particularly focusing on Gauteng for the fourth quarter of the financial year 2024-2025, covering January up until March 2025. Honorable Chair, the long version, just to show overall unpacking all the offenses, is also prepared. However, for now, I will just select and give a brief summary in terms of the Gauteng performance for last quarter of the financial year. As we start with our overall scoreboard, just to show overview for Gauteng, how it performed for last quarter, starting with our contact crime. Under this category, all offenses, with the exception of attempted murder, we saw a decrease. With attempted murder, there was an increase of 28 counts, 1.6%. This is as a result of some of the attempted murder. We had accumulated this from incidents whereby there are multiple, in one incident, there are multiple incidents where many victims were harmed in that regard. So this also emanated from the murders related, where you have in one incident people are murdered and others are severely injured. So that's how we accumulated some of this attempted murder. When we look at those that reflected a decrease, with murder in total in Gauteng for quarter under review, 1,439 people were murdered, which reflected a decrease of 175, 10.8%. This was the reduction from 1.6 that was recorded the previous year. When you look at the sexual offenses, there was also a reduction of 55 counts. In terms of the assault with intent to inflict grievous bodily harm, there was also a reduction there of 1,153. Common assault, we saw a reduction of 998. Common robbery, there was also a decrease of 393. Robbery with aggravating circumstances, there was also a decrease of 1,118. As a result, the category of contact crime, due to all the reduction that we saw under this category, we managed to decrease this with 3,864, 8.5%. Still under contact crime, however, looking at the subcategory of sexual offenses as well as robbery aggravated, accounted for under the contact crime. When you look at the sexual offenses, they break down in terms of the offenses that are covered under the subcategory, which is murder, where we saw a decrease of 15 counts. Sexual assault also decreased by 37. Attempted sexual offenses, a decrease of 13 counts. However, in relation to contact sexual offenses, there was an increase of 10 counts. Looking at the robbery aggravated, carjacking decreased by 70 counts. Robbery at residential premises, we also decreased by 122 counts. At non-residential premises, a decrease of 348. In terms of the trio crime, covering the three crimes there, there's a decrease of 540, 9.1%. When you look at the robberies of cash in transit, the CITs, in total, Gauteng, we had 13 incidents, which reflected an increase of 1 count when you compare to the previous period where we have recorded 12 incidents. Bank robbery, we did not have any incidents of bank robbery for period under review. In relation to truck hijacking, we increased by 1 count. Moving over to contact related, covering both arson as well as malicious damage to property, we saw an overall reduction of this category by 487 counts, 7.5, mainly due to arson decreasing by 3, as well as malicious damage to property decreasing by 484. When you look at the property related, covering the 5 offenses, as a category, it decreased by 2,180, mainly due to burglaries at non-residential premises decreasing by 418. Burglaries at residential premises also saw a decrease of 1,083. Theft of motor vehicle, a decrease of 302. Theft out of motor vehicle, a decrease of 333. Stock theft, a decrease of 44. Moving over to other serious crime, theft general, which is one of the highest contributor towards our 17 community reported. This offense alone is contributing more than 25% towards 17 community reported. We saw a decrease of 1,675. Commercial crime, whereby we saw a consistent increase over the period of 5 years. Comparing the 2 periods, we had increase of 786, shoplifting a decrease of 973. Overall, the other serious crime as a category, there was a decrease of 1,862. When you look at the 17 community reported, covering all reported offenses, mainly due to contact crime, contact related, property related, as well as other serious crime having a decrease. Hence, the 17 community reported as a broader category. We saw a reduction of 8,393 with 7.9%. When we move over to crime detected as a result of police action, with this one, ideally we want to see an increase as opposed to the 17 community reported where we want to see a decrease. This is show the effectiveness of policy in terms of crime detection as well as the arrest. So when looking at this category, illegal possession of firearm and ammunition, although we had a decrease of 131, in total 1,035 firearms were confiscated or recovered in the province during the period under the review. Looking at the truck related, an increase of 1,065, driving under the influence of alcohol and drugs. We also saw an increase of 1,066, sexual offenses, increased by 6 counts. In terms of the overall category of this category, there was an increase of 2,006. Honorable Chair, for this one, this is whereby we are showing a crime rate for the contact crime, in particular where the unit of measure is a person. Here we want to show the likelihood of probability of people being the victims of crime out of 100,000 population. This is mainly to have a comparison between the provinces, because we know due to the population in Gauteng will forever record the highest volumes in terms of the crime incidents due to the population. However, just to bring into focus the population to determine out of 100,000 population, how many people will likely to be the victims of this selected crime. So when you look at murder, the murder rate is 8.5 per 100,000. Population rape is 12.1. Attempted murder is 10.4 per 100,000 population. Assault with intent to inflict grievous bodily harm is 52.1 per 100,000. Common assault is 71.8%. Common robbery is 19.7. All this rate have saw a reduction, meaning there were lesser people for this particular period that were victims of crime when compared to the previous period when we look in relation to crime rate. Honorable Chair, Gauteng continued to still be the highest contributor, even though we had reduced highest when compared to other provinces. In total, for this period, we reduced 8,393. However, in terms of the contribution towards overall volume nationally, we contributed 26.2, which still remains to be the highest contributor towards the national. District managed to reduce the 17 community reported. Looking at the district in terms of the highest volumes of reduction, Johannesburg managed to reduce 2,736, followed by Ekurhuleni in terms of the highest with 2,659, Tshwane 2,264. When you look at the contribution, those three districts in terms of the heavyweights, they are contributing mainly in terms of the provincial figure there, with Johannesburg contributing 36.6, Tshwane 27.2, Ekurhuleni 22.5. Looking at the month to month for 3 months of the quarter, we managed to reduce 17 community reported throughout 3 months of the quarter, January, February, as well as March. We do also have a top 17 community station for quota. These are the high crime station, mainly they are contributing irrespective of whether they have recorded a decrease or an increase. Just to mention the top 5 being Midrand, Honeydew, Rutherford, Johannesburg Central, as well as Sandton. Although they are part of the top 40 in terms of the contribution, all those top 5 stations, they managed to reduce their overall crime. The top 9 also feature in the national list of the 17 community reported for quarter 3. Overall, the station, out of 47 of those, indicated an increase. These are the remainers of the station contributing towards the provincial picture. When we move over to contact crime as well, we managed to reduce it during the month of January, February, as well as March. Looking at the districts, all the districts reduced, with the highest being Ekurhuleni with 1,319, followed by Tshwane with 1,212, Johannesburg with 930. Contributions still remain between the 3 districts, Johannesburg with 38.6, Tshwane with 24.2. We also do have a top 40, of which 11 of those feature in the national list. I will not go through the station as they are reflected on the screen. When you look at the domestic violence related crime, these are the offenses that were committed, however they were linked or as a result of the domestic violence. These are the incidents whereby the victim and the perpetrator, they're in a sort of a relationship, being blood in terms of the mother and the son, or a relative, a niece and uncle, or marriage, the in-laws, as well as other maybe people who are sharing a residential place. So when we look at Gauteng for quarter 4, in total, all incidents that were linked to domestic violence is 8,567. When you look at the contribution by each district, Johannesburg is taking a bigger chunk of those with 3,214 contributing 37 incidents of domestic violence in Gauteng. The second highest contributor of these DV-related cases, they are coming from the district of Tshwane with 2,102 with a proportional contribution of 25%. When we look at the offenses that are mainly contributing to domestic violence incidents that are reported in the province, just to zoom into the top 3 contributing, the top 1 being common assault. In total, 4,592 incidents linked to common assault were as the results of DV, domestic violence. The second highest contributor towards these incidents are assault with intent to inflict grievous bodily harm with 1,704, and then the third highest is malicious damage to property with 1,501. However, let me also zoom into murder as well as the rape. With rape, 31 cases of murder were linked to domestic violence, and rape with 194. When you look at these offenses, majority of all of these offenses that were committed, the victims were female. When you look at murder, we also reduced murder January, February, March for whole 3 months of the quarter. Looking at the district, Sidibeng was the only district that saw an increase just by 1 count for murder. However, when you look at the other district, we've managed to reduce murders. It's Johannesburg with 57 counts down, Ekurhuleni with 54, Tshwane with 40, and Western with 25. The contribution still remain between the 3, however, the top 2 being Johannesburg with 39.8%, as well as Ekurhuleni with 29.2%. Honorable Chair, when you look at the factors that contribute to murder in Gauteng, just to mention the top 3 with the sample that we took there. From the sample that we took, argument, misunderstanding, road rages still contribute or still persist to be the main contributor towards the murder that are reported in the province with 102. The second highest contributor is with robberies. These are the murder committed during the commission of robberies with 103. Vigilantism, where people taking law into their own hands, with 69 counts there of murder that were committed. Honorable Chair, when you look at the phenomenon that still persists to contribute to the highest volumes of murder in Gauteng, this is the phenomenon of multiple murder that PC already alluded to in Gauteng. From overall murder counts that were reported, 191 of those were resulting from multiple murder, meaning in one incident, more than one person is murdered. So when you look at the breakdown there, in terms of the 7, where in one incident there were 7 victims is 2. The example were given by PC already. However, there are other issues in terms of the farm murder. In total, we had only 1 where the victims were a male employee in Western area. This has happened during the robbery at the farm where they managed to take the livestock there at the farm. And then in total for the province in that period of under review, 11 police officials were killed, whereby 1 was on duty and 10 of those off duty. Place of occurrence where these incidents took place, from the same sample that we took to establish the causative factor, we saw that public places such as street, open field, still persist to be the common place where these incidents of murder took place in Gauteng, with a total of 765. The second place where these incidents took place is the residence of perpetrator victim, meaning this is the place known to either the victims or the perpetrator, with 306. Liquor outlets also played a role there with 50 counts. When you look at the instrument, the commonly used instrument during the commission of this murder, firearms still persist to be the most preferred instrument during the commission of murder with 697. Just a reminder again with this one, 697 does not necessarily reflect the number of firearms used, however, number of victims that were murdered with the firearm, because one firearm can murder more than one people in the incident. We do also have a top 40 for murder stations, of which 7 of those feature in the national list. Without going through the list, out of this top 40, 20 of those managed to decrease their murder for Q4. When you look at rape only during the month of February were reduced by 97 counts. However, January and March there was an increase. March we increased by 54 counts, and January with 28 counts. Looking at the district there, District of Ekurhuleni as Tshwane, those are the 2 districts that managed to reduce the murder rate, rape rate with 16.5 for Ekurhuleni and Tshwane 3.1, and increases as reflected, Sedibeng with 37, Johannesburg with 45 counts, Sedibeng with 37, Western with 17. Looking at the contribution between the 3 heavyweight districts, with Johannesburg with 37.8% and Ekurhuleni with 24.6, Tshwane with 22.9. Place of occurrence, this is where the rape incidents took place. Residence of a perpetrator accounted for 859, and public place accounted for 336, leisure place with 25, and prison holding cell with 13 counts of rape incidents that we recorded. Top 40, 5 of those stations, Rutherford, Orange Farm, Alexandra, Diepsloot, as well as Ivory Park, featuring as a top 5 of the province. This station also feature in the national list for Q4. Out of the 40, 21 stations increased their rape. When you look at trios, we do had a reduction for trio January, February, as well as March. Looking at the district, only the district of Tshwane, where they had an increase by 20 counts, 1.5%. Reduction highest from Johannesburg with 297. Looking at the contribution, Johannesburg still continued to be the highest contributor towards overall volumes of Gauteng, particularly for trio crime with 35.8%. Also, we had a top 40 station, of which this top 40, 19 of those feature in the national list, with 22 of the stations from our top 40 having to record an increase for Q4. Carjacking, we saw a reduction during the month of January, February. However, in March, we have increase of 15 counts. Looking at the district, Ekurhuleni and Tshwane had an increase there of 2 and 5 respectively. When you look at the district that saw a reduction, Johannesburg with 6, Sedibeng with 57, and Western with 15. In terms of the contribution towards the overall picture of overall figure of 2,488 contributions are mainly coming from Johannesburg with 38.4%, followed by Ekurhuleni with 27.5 and Tshwane with 23.5. These are the top 40 stations for the province. The station in overall of national list, we have 19 of those. 23 stations reflected an increase for Q4 for carjacking. When you look at the robberies at residential premises, we saw a reduction for January, February, as well as March, with the district, Tshwane being the only district that saw an increase for robberies at residential premises with 103 counts, with a contribution of 24, with a percentage of 24.9 and contributing 27.7 towards the provincial figure of robberies at residential premises. In terms of the highest reduction there, Johannesburg with 149, followed by West Rand with 40 counts, and then Ekurhuleni with 19, Sedibeng with 17 counts. We also have a top 40 station that are contributing in terms of robberies at residential premises because of the volumes, of which this 40 station, 14 of those feature in the national list, the top 5 being Lower Mabopane, Tembisa, Rhodoport, as well as Mamelodi East. All this top 40 station, 25 station reflected an increase for robberies at residential premises for Q4. When you look at the robberies at non-residential premises, we had also reduction for January, February, as well as March, with all the districts having a reduction. The highest in terms of the counts is Johannesburg with 142, followed by Tshwane with 88 counts, Ekurhuleni with 73, Sedibeng with 36, and Western with 9. The contributions still remain between the three heavyweight districts, Johannesburg having to contribute 35.1% towards overall figure of robberies at residential premises for Gauteng during Q4. We also have a top 40 for non-residential premises robberies, of which 11 of those, the top 11 also feature in the national list. Looking at overall top 40, 15 station indicate an increase for this particular offense. When you look at the robberies of cash in transit, the CITs, January we reduced by 1, February by 2, however March we went 4 counts up. When you look at the district, Tshwane and Western saw a decrease of the CIT for their district during the period, with Tshwane decreasing by 2 counts, Western with 1. The increases with Ekurhuleni 2 more, Johannesburg and Sedibeng each having an increase by 1 count. Contribution, mainly 2 districts are contributed highly to CITs that were recorded in the province, with Johannesburg taking account of 38.5% and Ekurhuleni 30.8%. When you look at the CIT, how they were executed in the provinces in terms of the method, there were 2 types out of 13 that you had to break down the cross payment. Mostly the cross payment, the execution or the method is similar to where the armored vehicle is stationary. However, with this one, they wait for the security guard to board the vehicle so that they are able to target them. So for that, we accounted 6 of those out of 16. When you look at the district, it's only 3 districts that contributed to that 6. Ekurhuleni had 1 incident, Johannesburg 4 of them, Tshwane with 1. When you look at the armored vehicle while it's on the road, they target the vehicle while it's on the road, either by shooting at the vehicle or the tire so that the vehicle can come to a halt. Then they're able to target the security so that they can bomb it. So in total, we had 7 of those. When you look at the breakdown of that, Ekurhuleni account for 3 of those, Johannesburg 1, Sedibeng 2, and Tshwane 1. When you look at the companies that were targeted, mainly from that 13, FCS with 7, G4S with 5, EasyCatch with 1. Those are the methods that were used mainly during these incidents. The explosive are used either to bomb the vehicle as well as the firearm to threaten the security. When you look at truck hijacking in January, we saw a decrease of 13 counts. February, we went up with 9. March, up with 5. When you look at the district, Ekurhuleni and Johannesburg had an increase of truck hijacking, with Ekurhuleni up with 28 counts, Johannesburg additional 4 counts were recorded. Reduction, Tshwane decreased by 15 counts, Western with 14, Sedibeng with 2. Contribution mainly with the 2 district, Ekurhuleni accounting 40% of that 242 counts of truck hijacking, and Johannesburg taking 22.3% of the total truck hijacking incidents that were recorded in the province. We also do have a top 40, of which 24 stations that feature in the truck hijacking form part of the national list in terms of the contribution. In summary, out of this top 40, 25 stations reflected an increase of the truck hijacking for Q4. When you look at the kidnapping, we had an increase for January with 103, February 70 more, March 156. All the district, with the exception of Sedibeng, had an increase. Sedibeng decreased by 10 counts, increases, highest being Johannesburg with 163, Ekurhuleni with 104, Tshwane with 48, Western with 28, with 24. Looking at the contribution, Johannesburg taking up 40% of all total kidnappings that were recorded in the province, and the second highest contributor of the kidnapping in the province is Ekurhuleni with 26.8%. Chairperson, Honorable Chair, when you look at the contributing or motive behind this kidnapping, more than 50% of the kidnapping in Gauteng emanated from hijacking. Remember, with this one, irrespective of whether they hold you for 5 minutes, the fact that is they holding you against your will, the deprivation of movement, we count that as kidnapping. So normally with this one, they drive around maybe in a plan of cleaning your account in terms of the money. Once the mission is accomplished, they release you. Hence, that deprivation of movement, we consider it as hijacking. The second highest contributor towards the kidnappings robbery related. Maybe this incident, they held you while they robbed you, whether in the presidential premises as well as the business premises. While they're still holding you, it's considered robbery linked to kidnapping. And then rape related with 133. When we look at extortion, out of that total, we had 20 of them. And then in terms of the human trafficking in total, we had 3 of those that were linked to human trafficking overall from the kidnapping. Honorable Chair, we also have a top 40 station for kidnapping, of which 26 of those also form part of the top 30 national list of the kidnapping. So just to look at the summary of this station, 34 stations indicated an increase for kidnapping during Q4. Property related, we saw a decrease for January, February, as well as March, with all the districts having a decrease, highest in terms of the number of counts that were reduced. Johannesburg having 916 counts that were reduced, followed by Ekurhuleni with 599, Tshwane with 565, Western with 106, Sedibeng with 9. Contribution still remain between the 3 highest contributing districts, with Johannesburg contributing 32.6, Tshwane 30.2, and Ekurhuleni with 22.4. We also have a top 40 for property related, of which 10 of those also feature in the national top 30 list of property related for Q4. 10 stations only reported an increase out of 40 for the top 40 of the province. Stock theft also decreased throughout the 3 months of the quarter, with January decreasing by 6 counts, February with 19, as well as March. When you look at the district, Ekurhuleni managed to stabilize, meaning what they have recorded for now, current for quarter, is the same counts that were recorded the previous quarter, which is 25. Hence, they managed to put this particular offense on stabilization. And then looking at other districts, Sedibeng decreased, Western decreased by 24, Sedibeng by 10, Tshwane with 8, and Johannesburg with 2. Contribution remained between the 3 there, with Tshwane contributing 35.9%, as well as Sedibeng with 25.3%, and then Western with 20.6%. Honorable Chair, although we don't have any station in the national top 30 list of stock theft, however, we do have our top 40 high contributing station for stock theft, the top 5 being Dube from Tshwane, Vanderbilt Park, Bronkhorstspruit, De Barrage, as well as Heidelberg. This station, out of 40, only 19 of those recorded an increase for stock theft. In conclusion, Honorable Chair, just to give an overall summary of the station in terms of the summary of out of 17 community reported how many offenses that saw an increase. Starting with the province overall, only 2 offenses, which is attempted murder as well as commercial crime, out of 17 that saw an increase. The rest were able to be on the decrease. And then Ekurhuleni from the district, only 1 offense increase, which is commercial crime. Tshwane, 2 increase, which is arson as well as commercial crime. Johannesburg, 4 attempted murder, sexual offenses, theft of motor vehicle as well as commercial crime. Western, 6 that saw an increase, which is assault, GBH, sexual offenses, arson as well as malicious damage to property, theft out of motor vehicle and commercial crime, CDBN 6, that saw an increase out of 17, which is murder, common robbery, sexual offenses, theft of motor vehicle, as well as theft out of motor vehicle and theft general. With that, Honorable Chair, thank you. This is the end of my presentation for quarter 4 for Gauteng.
Let's get Andena. Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm certain that members are noting the questions and comments that they want to make. There is a worrying trend about the two crimes. I think they are remaining very stubborn in terms of the work that they are doing. And maybe it's because, unless there are other reasons, Commissioner, on why the crimes that are related to robbery and the CIT robbery and kidnapping are becoming a big problem. But then I go back to you to finalize the presentation for the quarter. Over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Members. All the other protocols are observed. Chairperson, yes, as per your request, we will deal with a number of aspects that the committee has requested for progress. It is reflected on the screen in terms of the overview. Some of these aspects are progress reports from previous reports in terms of illegal mining, gang-related violence, human trafficking, kidnappings, vigilantism, second-hand goods, dealers and scrapyards, and then there's 2 new matters that the committee requested during the previous sitting to get a report on, and that will be relating to cybercrime and the community police forums. So the purpose of the presentation is to brief the committee with a progress report on the interventions of those aspects that I mentioned for the 4th quarter of the 24-25 financial year. Honourable Chairperson, we will commence with progress on interventions employed to curb illegal mining. And you will see there that there's 26 precincts, over 4 of the 5 policing districts in the province that experience problems with in terms of illegal mining. In the West Rand, there's 8, being Bekkersdal, Carletonville, Kagiso, Krugersdorp, Magaliesburg, Boschlagking, Randfontein and Western Area. In Ekurhuleni, there's 9. In Johannesburg, there's 7. There's 2 been added since the previous report in respect of Doornkop and Mondior. And then lastly, in our Sedibeng district, there's 2 police stations that experience problems in terms of illegal mining, being De Deer with surface mining, as well as Heidelberg. Chair, we also just remind the committee in terms of the criminal value chain for illegal mining that comprises 5 levels, as is reflected on the screen, starting at the bottom with level 1. Will be the individuals, illicit miners, mine workers, and security mine personnel. It moves up to level 2, which are the dealers and runners with illicit smelt houses. Then we move to level 3, buyers at regional level, level 4 at national level, and level 5 international level. And level 3 to 5 of this criminal value chain is dealt with by the Directorate of Priority Crime Investigations, the DPCI, or the Hawks. Chair, just to remind ourselves in terms of the interventions that is deployed to address illegal mining, they are continuously implemented by means of a multifaceted approach, inclusive of internal as well as external stakeholders on the different organizational levels. We start at our station level, where there's intensified high visibility operations, targeted deployment of operational resources at these identified illegal mining hotspots. We also have from our district level, there's support in terms of multidisciplinary operations that is conducted, also from provincial level, where there's a continued functioning of our Prof Joints Priority Committee for the planning and evaluation of all provincial illegal mining operations in terms of our National Crime Combating Forum instruction. It also includes the National Defence Force in the planning and deployment of these operations. And also from our national level, there's deployment of SAP specialized units to support Operation Valamgodi to address the illegal mining spate in our province. And this also includes other units such as our National Intervention Unit, our mobile operations unit, the special task force, and the like. And the deployment of these units are done in terms of our 5-pillar operational approach. Chair, when we look at the activities and operations that has been conducted in respect of illegal mining for the 4th quarter, that is the period January to March, we can see there's a total of 114 illegal mining operations that were conducted. Awareness campaigns, there were 92. Visits to these mines or diggings were over 2,200. And then searches that were conducted at the mines were 135, giving us a total of 2,570 activities in this area. Some of the successes that has been achieved in terms of illegal mining operations for the period under review is reflected on the screen, with 202 undocumented persons arrested. For illegal dealing in liquor, there has been 3 arrests, drug-related crimes 7, and possession of firearms and ammunition, there were 6, bringing the total of 228 in terms of illegal mining. There were also a number of confiscations done during these operations, which is reflected there. I might not read through all of them. Suffice to say that in terms of firearms, 18 firearms has been recovered in respect of these operations with 4 vehicles. There's some explosives that has been recovered, as well as precious metals, gold dust, and diamonds in terms of the weight that has been indicated there. Chair, moving to the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation in terms of their interventions, it is indicated that illegal mining is not only a South African challenge and is not an issue that has recently come to light. It is a complex issue that has compelled various layers of stakeholders, including government, labour unions, the largest sphere of safety and security, and industry, which has resulted in various strategies containing objectives that are required to be upheld. Mine residue areas not only pose a series of environmental and social risks in Gauteng, but it also creates barriers to the movement of individuals, and these also create challenges for spatial redevelopment and integration programs. Honourable Chair, the SABC, DPCI, together with the Mineral Council of South Africa, the National Coordinating Strategic Management Team, and the Department of Mineral and Petroleum Resources have been persistently working to identify and deal with all levels of the syndicate system that constitute the biomarket of illicit precious metal trafficking. The DPCI continues to focus on illegal mining and illicit trafficking with a focus on level 3 to level 5 of the value chain, as I mentioned earlier. In terms of the DPCI with Project Greedy, some significant progress was achieved, where a preservation order for the amount of over 3.7 million and a forfeiture order were obtained within the 4th quarter of the 24-25 reporting period. Honourable Chair and members, if we just have a look at a number of successes from the DPCI that is linked to illegal mining and the other priority offences. The first one that we reflect there is that on the 27th of February 2025, members of the Joburg Serious Organised Crime Investigation Unit conducted a search and seizure operation at an address in Limborough Park when one suspect was arrested for the possession of palladium. The operation yielded the following result. It's 90 kilograms of palladium stones estimated at the value of over 50 million rand. Further to that, on Wednesday, the 19th of March, also members of the DPCI Johannesburg Serious Organised Crime Investigation Unit, with the assistance of other stakeholders, conducted a search and seizure operation in Mackenzie Park in Benoni, where another suspect was arrested for possession and dealing in precious metals. 3 gold nuggets, 240 grams, with an estimated value of 300,000 rand and 1 Kruger rand was confiscated. Moving on to further successes by the DPCI on the 21st of March, also with the assistance of other stakeholders, a search and seizure operation on 4 addresses in the Midrand area were conducted where the Zimbabwean national was arrested for possession and dealing of precious metals. The operation yielded the following seizures. There was 3 gold nuggets, once again that was confiscated, 200,000 rand cash at the 2nd address. At the 3rd address, there was no confiscations, and at the 4th address, a money counting machine and rubber bands were confiscated, and all of these belong to the suspect that was arrested. Further move on the confiscations and successes from the DPCI. On the 1st of February 2025, it's reflected there, Chair, that a couple were stopped by members of SABC at Bedford View, and they were asked to search the vehicle. Permission was granted, and an amount of over 3 million rand was found in the car. Upon inquiry, the response was that this money was exchanged for scrap metal from a company called Hybrid. An investigation was conducted. At the end, it was confirmed that the money was from that firm. An inquiry was opened and cash was seized and booked in as exhibit. Further investigation was then conducted by the Serious Organised Crime Investigation, which has revealed that the property is the proceeds of the sale of second-hand jewellery, the origin of which could not be established, and the seller thereof, which is AfriGold Jewellers, owned by the suspect, made fraudulent entries in respect thereof in its second-hand goods register. The matter was referred by the Serious Organised Crime for asset forfeiture investigation, and a preservation order was granted by the Johannesburg High Court on the 27th of March 2025. Honourable Chair, we will move to, in terms of our progress on the interventions to address gang-related crimes. As indicated previously, the 5-pillar approach is adopted to be implemented to address and combat gang-related crime within the province, and we'll deal with the pillars, each one of them separately, as we move through the presentation. The first pillar that we deal with is in Pillar 1, intelligence gathering, analysis and coordination. To suffice that areas identified as hotspots for gangsterism are reflected as Boysen, Sophia Town, Moffatview, Eldorado Park, Langlaagte, Orlando specifically Noordgesig, Reiger Park, and then Mohlakeng and Toekomsrus, which form part of the Mohlakeng policing area. It has been noted, Chair, that through intelligence gathering, that gangs, specifically the Varados Quartet, are increasing their territorial fields into areas such as Lenasia and Ennerdale in the Johannesburg district. Resistance can be anticipated from other groupings operated in those areas, which may cause an increase in violence. It's also during March of 2025, a prominent member and drug dealer of the Varados Quartet was shot and killed. Prominent gang members are currently being targeted, creating a vacuum in the leadership of gangs, which may result in inter-gang conflict as well as revenge attacks. The severity of this conflict will also depend on the targeted individual's hierarchy. It's also been noticed, Chair, that younger boys which are aspiring to be gang members are being utilized as shooters by the gangs. This may also be considered as an initiating process used by gangs, as killing a person is a prerequisite to join some of these gangs in order to prove loyalty. Currently, the Varados Quartet gang grouping is extending the territory within the Toekomsrus area in Mohlakeng, as we indicated, where the umbrella boys are operating. These umbrella boys are dissatisfied with the situation and the possibility of increased violence in the area should the opportunity arise cannot be discounted. Lastly, in terms of the Pillar 1, toy guns are increasingly seized, and these are used to threaten, intimidate people and commit crimes. Gang shootings also occur for various reasons, which include within the same gang as a result of personal disputes or contestation of leadership positions. Secondly, rivalry between different gangs over drug territory. And lastly, then revenge killings from gang members or family members of deceased. Social media is also increasingly used by gangsters or by youngsters to show their loyalty to a specific gang by means of hand signs. Some of them even go so far as posing with firearms, whether they are real or not. Some of the mitigating measures implemented in terms of the intelligence environment is the intensive interviewing and interrogation of victims and suspects, the profiling and purifying of the list of repeat offenders and parolees, including accused released on bail, profiling, purifying of list of circulated wanteds, cases withdrawn which are reviewed by the detective environment for possible re-enrollment in court, intensified collection efforts on priority targets. There were 3 long-term operations also registered to address targets from this group, and priority targets of the 2 main opposing groups who were identified, and the targets are for long-term investigations, and cases withdrawn are reviewed. Honourable Chair, we move to Pillar 2 of the approach, which relates to our proactive approach and also high visibility. There's a number of activities that has been implemented to address gang and gang-related crimes, and those include regular school searches for drug awareness and school safety campaigns, also community outreach and targeted street measures in identified areas, improving youth-related activities aimed at reducing drug abuse and gang-related violence, also exposing problematic liquor outlets, closing after trading hours, selling liquor to minors, and also allowing firearms and other dangerous weapons into their premises. And also lastly, the recruit and deployment of community patrollers in all of these identified areas with the aim of enhancing visibility at drug and gang-related hotspots to reduce criminal activity and improve community relations. Chair, if you look at some of the activities that has been conducted in the prioritized areas, as mentioned at those police stations for the period under review, we can see for all of those stations there was a number of community awareness campaigns ranging from 149 in Booysens to 111 in Sophiatown and in Mohlakeng, which indicated as the most recent problem for these gang-related activities. There were 317 community awareness campaigns. There was also in all of these areas for the quarter, there was a number of school safety campaigns launched. There were school premises searched, with the highest number being in Mohlakeng, 161, and 52 in Sophiatown. Adopt a crop programs was also implemented across the board. Community patrollers, it's reflected in terms of the numbers there, as well as the Gauteng crime prevention or traffic wardens that is in all of these areas deployed, with the highest number being in Eldorado Park at 228. Pillar 3 of the combat approach relates to the combat approach, Honourable Chair, and this relates to rapid response, which are implemented by our anti-gang unit, and it's reflected in terms of their day-to-day operations for the quarter. There was 5,451 of those. Drug operations were 235, and disruptive operations were a total of 420 for the period under review. There's also the arrests that were made by the anti-gang unit in that areas, policing areas, is reflected. Sophiatown having 62, Eldorado Park 26, Booysens 3, Reiger Park 2, Langlaagte there were 23 arrests, Mohlakeng 1, and Enderday 1, Mohlakeng 2, bringing a total number of arrests in terms of the anti-gang unit to 119. Also through the anti-gang, there was a number of confiscations during the fourth quarter. I'm just going to highlight one or two in terms of cannabis. There was 79 grams. Mandrax tablets, we can see there was a total of 8,469 tablets confiscated over the period. In terms of firearms and ammunition, we had 138 ammunition, 13 pistols or revolvers that were recovered, 1 shotgun, and firearm parts, which include magazines. There were 1 in terms of vehicles. There were 1 vehicle recovered and 2 motorcycles during the period under review by the anti-gang unit. For the same period, Chair, from January to March, the anti-gang unit was also deployed at the following schools in prioritized areas. In Reiger Park, it was the Oosrand Secondary School, Reiger Park Secondary School, and Eldorado Park, there was 3 schools visited, Lancevale, Willow, Crescent, and Silver Oak. In Booysens, the Sir John Adamson High School, Sophiatown Secondary School, and lastly, Riverlee Secondary School in Langlaagte. And our members are also deployed at funerals and after-tears parties to avoid mass shootings. Honourable Chair and members, we're moving to Pillar 4, which is our reactive approach, looking at the detective and case management, mostly in terms of our organised crime investigations. So we can see there at the bottom, for murder, there were 6 court dockets and 4 still under investigation, bringing a total of 10 in terms of attempted murder. To 3, possession of firearms and ammunition, there was 5 case dockets. Other 1 total, there was 19 case dockets that were dealt with. Further, in terms of case management by station, those stations that were identified in terms of Sophiatown, Langlaagte, Eldorado Park, Moffatview, Booysens, and Mohlakeng, we can see in total for case dockets that went to court, there was 3 went to court within 4 of the investigations. Attempted murder, there was 1 that went to court. Possession of firearms, 5 went to court. In total, that was 14. Anti-gang arrests, also in terms of the detection and case management, it's also reflected in terms of the different arrests and the number of cases for all of these stations. In total, for murder, there has been 6 arrests and 3 cases. For attempted murder, there has been 2 arrests in 1 case. For possession of firearms and ammunition, there were 6 arrests in 5 cases. And then will bring us to a total of 14 arrests in 9 cases in terms of anti-gang activities done by the organised crime. Chairperson, during the previous sitting, there was also a request made to reflect on arrests made of SABC members in terms of anti-corruption involved in gangs. So there is a number of proactive measures that has been implemented to counter corruption and enhance integrity, which include the following. There's a 3-year rolling and annual operational plan for risk and integrity management that has been developed and it's been approved. We also ensure compliance with submission of financial disclosures by SMS, MMS members, as well as members attached to financial management and supply chain management for the 24-25 financial year. We also enforce prescripts surrounding the receipt and management of gifts, sponsorship and donations. Also, there's prescripts enforced in relating to application for remunerative work by SABC employees, circulation of articles and posters in the province to create awareness of anti-corruption. We also have the rollout of an advocacy and awareness program with regards to fraud, corruption, ethics and integrity at our SABC business units, and also availability of members to conduct ad hoc advocacy and awareness programs. Although not gang-related, for the period under review, a total of 14 SABC members were arrested in 8 cases for corruption. None of them were gang-related. The last pillar in the approach that is implemented for addressing the gang-related violence is communication and liaison. Just to give an indication there that for the period under review, there was a total of 108 media releases and press statements that were issued in respect of gang, drug, and related successes. Chair, that will bring us to the end of the gang-related violence. We're moving on to the next aspects for progress, and that is in terms of human trafficking and kidnapping. As previously reported to the committee, the following are still in place to address human trafficking. There's provincial task teams on trafficking persons, as well as a provincial rapid response teams to attend to operational matters relating to suspected complaints and pending cases of trafficking in persons and providing support to victims. The DPCI has a National Trafficking Persons Coordinator who is responsible to coordinate and monitoring traffic in persons in the 9 provinces with provincial coordinators in each of the provinces. The mentioned units also have dedicated trafficking in persons investigating officers, and these units do not only assist and protect victims in the investigation of trafficking in persons, but also coordinate, collaborate in trafficking in persons, public education, as well as awareness campaigns. When we look at the docket workflow in terms of the DPCI for the period under review, there were 39 case dockets inquiries that were carried over from the previous quarter, which were under investigation. For the quarter, there was 1 disruptive operation were conducted, 3 case dockets were received for this period, 1 inquiry was finalized, and 1 awareness campaign was conducted. Just to highlight the Honourable Chair that 49 victims of trafficking in persons were rescued in the reporting period, of which 26 were Ethiopians rescued in the Sandringham area, and also 23 South Africans were rescued in Myanmar. These victims were recruited by means of various social media platforms. They were promised lucrative job opportunities in Thailand and then trafficked to Myanmar for forced labor at different scamming compounds. On the 26th of March of this year, the 23 victims were repatriated back to South Africa. When we look at kidnapping, Honourable Chair, the occurrence of kidnapping remains an area of concern and priority within the province. A team from organised crime continue to engage the relevant bank as well as the African Banking Risk Information Centre, or SABRIC as it is known, to trace the withdrawals in instances where a victim's banking app has been used by the suspects to withdraw or transact money. Continued interventions are implemented to address the occurrence of kidnapping, and these include, inter alia, the following forums that has been established with foreign nationals, often targeted for kidnapping for ransom, which include Chinese, Portuguese, and Indian nationals. The functioning of a specialized task team to deal with the investigation of these cases within the organised crime investigation component in the province. There's also increased and focused collaboration with the Directorate of Public Prosecution, as well as the Senior Public Prosecutor regarding kidnappings, as well as collaboration with security companies to assist with the combating of kidnappings. As was indicated by Brigadier Chakalani during the presentation for the 4th quarter, there was 144 cases of kidnapping for ransom within the province, of which 4 cases were dealt with by the special team established within the organised crime component. Those 4 is reflected on the screen, for one being in Vereniging in January, another one in Kempton Park in January, there was one in Lenasia in March, and one in Primrose in April. Of those 4 cases, 3 of the victims have been released, 1 is still in captivity. Chair, the next aspect to report on is cybercrime, which was requested during the previous sitting of the committee during the release of the third quarter crime statistics. So as we reflected there that cybercrime in South Africa is governed by the Cybercrimes Act, number 19 of 2020, which came to effect on the 1st of December 2021. And this act defines and regulates various forms of cybercrime, including a number that has been reflected there: cyber fraud, cyber extortion, phishing and online scams, identity theft, unauthorized access, data breaches, malware, and ransom attacks, and then lastly, cyber malicious communication. So the investigation into cybercrime is dealt with as follows. Cases are reported at police station by the public and investigated by local detectives dependent on the mandate. Guidance are provided to investigating officers who is investigating these cases at local level. External role players, for example, scientific, forensic and risk divisions are utilized also to assist investigation and identification of digital footprints. Internal role players are used to assist with investigation, forensic downloading, imaging and analyzing of computer devices, and that include crime and intelligence as well as our cybercrime at head office. Social media platforms, Facebook, TikTok, WhatsApp, and Instagram and others are also subpoenaed to obtain of information. Detectives attached to our commercial crime investigation units at provincial level are attending to open source intelligence courses as well as cybercrime courses. In-service training is provided to detectives during interventions and police stations, as well as workshops which are provided by external stakeholders, which include SABC, FNB, the Financial Intelligence Centre, as well as the South African Reserve Bank. Chair, we've also formed partnerships with the following stakeholders in addressing cybercrime: the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, or the CSIR, SABC, as we mentioned earlier, a cybercrime work group with Interpol and other international law enforcement agencies, the Financial Intelligence Centre, the Reserve Bank, as well as cellular phone and internet service providers. Chair, we're moving on to vigilantism. As per previous report to the committee, the vigilantism refers to the act of taking the law into one's own hands, often through violent or intimidating means, to enforce justice and maintain order. Vigilantes typically bypass official authorities such as police or courts to punish perceived wrongdoers. There's a number of types of vigilantism which may include community-based vigilantism, where neighborhood watches or groups or mobs seeking to protect their community. Political vigilantism, targeting individuals or groups based on ideology or affiliation. And lastly, economic, where punishing those around accused of economic crimes like theft or corruption. Chair, for the period under review, a total of 44 cases, mostly in the Tshwane and Sedibeng district, were reported, and there were 46 arrests made in these cases. The slide there depicts a police station where the number of cases were reported and also the arrests, and we can see on the first slide in Tshwane, the majority of cases were reported at Mabopane with 11 cases. Erasmus, there was 1 case with 4 arrests. Moving still to Tshwane, at Lohati, there was 4 cases and there were 8 arrests. In Temba, there were 3 cases with 7 arrests, all for murder. And then in Sebokeng, there was 1 case in Vereniging with 12 arrests, and in Orange Farms, there were 5 cases and 5 arrests, bringing the total of cases 44, as I indicated, with 46 people arrested in those cases. Second to last, Chair, to report progress in terms of our second-hand goods, dealers and scrapyards. We're also aware that the Second-Hand Goods Act 6 of 2009 aims to regulate dealing in second-hand goods and pawnbrokers in order to combat the trade in stolen goods and to promote ethical standards in the second-hand goods trade. It's also then to oversee the implement of the Criminal Matters Amendment Act and ensure scrap metal dealers, general dealers, recyclers, and communication dealers are policed properly. There's a second-hand goods forum that has been established, and this is responsible for the coordinating of the following. First of all, to address non-compliance to the Second-Hand Goods Act in respect of registered dealers, ensuring compliance of unregistered second-hand good dealers, also ensuring compliance in terms of the Act by all registered second-hand good dealers through the conducting of compliance inspections and operations. Second to last, to identify and dismantle the market for stolen goods, such as electronic equipment, vehicles, cellular telephones, and non-ferrous metals. And lastly, combating cable theft and other essential infrastructure-related crimes in terms of the Criminal Matters Amendment Act, as I mentioned on the previous slide. Activities that has been implemented for the fourth quarter of the 24-25 financial year is reflected on the screen, with a total of 734 awareness campaigns and 1,230 second-hand goods control operations. There's a number of inspections that has been conducted in various aspects. I will not go through of them all, but in total it is 20,208 inspections that were conducted at the various types of second-hand goods dealers throughout the province. Other actions executed in terms of second-hand goods dealers, also 166 cases were opened. Registered premises that were closed down was 9. Unregistered premises that were closed down was 84. Second-hand goods fines issued was over 16,000, and J534s also over 16,000 that were issued. Arrests were made 314 in terms of second-hand goods related. Dealing in goods at unregistered premises were 307, and possession or receiving of possible stolen goods was 7. These were just some confiscations that were also done during those operations, which I will not go through, but includes a number of items such as batteries, copper pipe, drain covers, fuel, steel droppers, telephone cables, and a number of others. In terms of the reactive measures, also there was a total of 730 cases by the detectives, and of which 738 arrests were made in these cases. Cases still under investigation is 132, and cases not yet finalized pending in court for second-hand goods dealers related crime is 1,183. Chairperson, the last aspect that we will be dealing with is also a request that was done during the previous sitting of the committee, and that is in terms of the community police forums, to give some background on the functioning thereof. It's reflected there on the slide that the CPFs is the only recognized consultative forum designed to permit communities to make their policing concerns known to the police, as per Section 19.1 of the SABC Act 68 of 1995. The objectives of the CPFs include inter alia the following: to establish a partnership between the police and the communities they serve, to ensure effective protection of communities and a better quality of life. Secondly, to ensure that the police address the primary needs of the community and are accountable to them. Also to enhance the quality of information available to the police, resulting in the development of proactive and problem-solving approach to crime and violence. Fourthly, providing communities with a visible, accessible policing presence to enhance public confidence in the police and to deter criminals. And lastly, to align the values of the police organization with those of the New Democratic South Africa, aiming at producing police officers who can interact sensitively with their communities and in a manner that respects local norms and values. The CPF's boards are established at station level, which include also the sector forums, at district level as well as at provincial level. Currently, the CPFs are functioning at all of the police stations within the province. Also, in an attempt to assist, the following items were purchased during the financial year 24-25 to assist the CPFs in Gauteng. We'll also not go through all the list, but it include community in blue jackets and caps, boots, promotional material, youth desk closing, radios and chargers, a card making machine, also community-based campaigns. Lastly, Chair, in terms of the objective of the Community in Blue patrollers, this concept is to promote the reporting of criminal activities, as well as any suspicious behavior in the community, to also increase the visibility in order to determine or deter criminal activities, and lastly, to promote active community participation in crime prevention initiatives. The Community in Blue will also assume the objectives of the CPF and the Provincial Board, as stated in Section 18.1 of the SABC Act. And the Community in Blue patrollers are utilized as follows: Siabagenda operations for weekly operations, which is conducted on Thursdays and Sundays. School deployment, which is done daily on a 24-hour basis on Mondays to Fridays. There's daily posting at kiosks at hotspot areas. There's mall deployment during special operations. Daily patrols, which are under the guidance of the sector managers in the different policing precincts. They're deployed at special events, awareness campaigns, and also as part of community mobilization. With that, Chair, it comes to the end of the progress report, and I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. It's much appreciated. We are going to get to, we are now at the point where the committee members will engage with the report in terms of questions and comments and observations. Conclude the discussions on the candidates, and then we get to the presentation from the mentors and Sarah. I assume that all committee members are going to make comments. So I will start from my left, starting with member Evans, member Sun, member Bosch, member Luca, member Adams, chair of chairs. We are quite blessed as a committee today, maybe it's because of the birthday. We've got 3 presiding officers in our meeting. We are only left, we are short of the speaker. So it's a special day. And then we have the PS, the deputy chairs, and member Moody. They will all make their comments and observations. I hope I'm not compelling anyone to make comments, but I think everyone has got them.
Some areas where there are gang-related violence, there's not a lot of physical policing. And I was confidentially informed by one of our councils that in a case where there is gang-related violence, where there's a gang-related shooting, everyone in the community will know that that was gang-related. But then when SABC arrives on the scene, then it's not gang-related, it's not regarded as that. And I know, I'm actually very, very pleased to see that there is a portion of the pie that says gang-related violence, gang-related murder, or whatever it was, but it was on, I think it was on, let me just say, it was in a presentation. Thank you for that. We'll appreciate it, because at some stage it felt as if colored lives don't matter because of all these killings. And the numbers, the reason why I mentioned 6 going to crime scenes and not identifying a murder as gang-related when the community knows that I'm going to question the numbers that were given to us. I'm going to question the numbers that were given to us. And how can that we know are locked up. They were locked up for a few days. Happy other community members. And sadly, these guys returned to terrorize communities again. What can be done to keep these people, like our chair mentioned, our justice system also needs to be spoken to. But what can be done to keep these boys in prison and ensure that they are sentenced? Because they terrorize communities out there. They terrorize communities. And it's not nice. It is not nice. People are too scared to go to funerals, I must just add, because they will then be targeted next. These gangsters actually attend funerals. They attend funerals to see who's dead.
And it's certainly encouraging. It's always encouraging to see the downward trend and the decreasing of crime overall. So congratulations and thank you for the hard work you see in your team. But we must also then drill down to focus on some of the key issues. I personally want to look at the rape, carjackings, the robbery, especially at residential premises, Chairperson. These are still very high, and these are creating a sense of we are not safe, especially when you see the number of robberies at residential premises.